such as the Brahmins and Kamsa's clothes washers, when they met Krishna, they were still in ignorance. And from what I understand, it's Krishna's like the sun. Wherever there's the sun, there cannot be ignorance. So how is it that such persons remain in such darkness in the presence of Krishna?
The question is that there are many people you hear in Krishna Leela, like the washermen and so on, they were in ignorance even when they came face to face with Krishna. And Krishna is like the sun, and there can be no darkness where there is a sun. So how is it these people remain in ignorance? Yes, even in the presence of the sun there can be darkness. You know how? Shut your eyes. Yes, that's one interesting way, yes. Very nice, very intelligent, that's right. All you have to do is turn your back to the sun. And what do you see in front of you? Your shadow, which is darkness. That's precisely what the darkness of the material world is like. What's that verse from Bhagavatam? Yes. Vayam dvitiya viniveshatasya isha tapetasya viparjayo asmritiyo. The Bhagavatam says that fear and anxiety arise in this material world because the living entity turns his back to Krishna and forgets Krishna. So Krishna is like the sun, but if you turn your back to him, vimukha cetasa, if your consciousness becomes perverted, you don't want to look at the sun, then what can be done? Prabhupada used to give this example that if someone sitting in the room with his windows closed, the doors closed, and says there is no sun, there is nothing like the sun, and someone says just open your window and you'll see the sun, he said no, he doesn't want to open the window, then how will you see the sun? So Prabhupada gives us an analogy to say that if someone denies the existence of God, then what can be done? If he insists on remaining in ignorance and not receiving the light of knowledge, of transcendental knowledge, then what can be done? So it's not that everyone who came in the physical presence of Krishna became a devotee. There were many who were very demoniac. In fact, their demoniac tendencies and their envy increased. The more they saw Krishna, their envy increased. Shishupal. It is said about Shishupal that he would constantly meditate on the way Krishna would move, how he would glance at his devotees, how he would speak, how he would walk, how he would sit. And every time he saw him, his envy increased. He was fortunate. He was killed by Krishna. So therefore we can see that simply being in the physical presence of Krishna is not the answer. Prabhupada explains that even if you are far away from the presence of Krishna physically, but if you are hearing his messages, like the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, and you accept that in your life, Krishna is as good as physically present with you. Duryodhana was present before Krishna, but he didn't become a devotee. We are not physically present before Krishna, but we can become devotees. Just by accepting the presence of Krishna in the form of transcendental sound vibration through the scriptures and the holy name. Alright? Hare Krishna. Any other question? Yes.
God has come in so many forms. Why he has never come in the form of woman?
He did. Yes, indeed. Why has God never come in the form of woman? He did as Mohini Avatar. Yes, and he bewildered even Lord Shiva. And just as when he is Krishna, he is most attractive, and Mohini also Avatar, he was most beautiful, and therefore even Lord Shiva was attractive, who is normally dhir, who is very sober. Okay? Any other question? Yes. Hare Krishna.
As mentioned, these people who claim to be avatars of Krishna, what do you think goes on in their mind? They must understand it.
Oh.
If they are not somewhere, they must understand it.
Well, of course they understand that they are not God. Unless they are, mentally unstable or something. and delusions of grandeur. But more often than not, they actually perhaps start believing it because everyone tells them. When everyone around you starts saying you're God, you kind of one day tend to believe it. Just like all these superheroes from the movies and the sports and music thing, they live in a different world. They don't live in reality. They just live in a world where delusions of grandeur because there's so much adoration and so much of fan following. So they also start thinking that they're really special. So these people, of course, most of them just simply want to cheat. And because of some yogic activity or some siddhi obtained in the previous lives, because of yogic practices from the previous lives, they may have some powers. Even they don't know how these powers have come to them. They just have them from birth. I know of people who have some siddhi, but they don't know how they got it. They just have it. But they're not spiritual. They have these powers. One time one of our sannyasis was describing, we went to a gathering of religious personalities. It was in an open pandal. You know what a pandal is? Just a stage with a few chairs and some cloth covering. And it started raining. And one of the people on the stage was a yogi. And he was sitting next to our ISKCON sannyasi. And they were chatting together. He was not at all spiritual, quite mundane. But when it started raining, he just stood up and he put his hands up like that and the rain stopped. Everyone was amazed. But he was not spiritual. Somehow he got some little siddhi, some little power, because of some yogic practices perhaps he had done in his previous life. So there are many, many such people who claim themselves to be God. There was one particular person who was called Bhagavan by his followers. And Prabhupada was asked by one of his disciples that such and such person, people call him God. And when I asked him, why do you claim to be God? He said, I don't claim to be God. It's just that my followers call me God. So then Prabhupada, in his usual strong fashion, he said, then why the rascal does not say that he's not God? If his followers call him God, he should say, yes, I'm not God. But he never says that. When his followers call him God, he remains silent. So there is a Sanskrit proverb which says, what is that? Maunam sammati lakshana, which means silence is a proof of your acquiescence. That means that you agree to something. Suppose someone tells you, you are God, and you keep quiet. What does it mean? That you agree. If someone tells you, you are God, in India it happens, But when you go out, people may tell you, oh, you are God, you are God. So you have to tell them, no, we are not God, we are servants of God. So, because these people don't deny that to their followers, so they are actually guilty of the same crime. So it's as good as saying that I am God. So therefore Prabhupada is very, very particular. One time in the early days of the movement, when the first sannyasis had been initiated, a group of sannyasis started saying that Prabhupada was an avatar of the Lord. And Prabhupada became very angry. He actually asked them to leave ISKCON. He did that actually for a while. I think he brought him back later, but at least for some time, he sent the whole group out of ISKCON. And therefore he didn't name this institution after himself. He named it after Krishna. He said there are many followers, many spiritualists who start organizations and name it after themselves. But he said, I have named this after Krishna, because we are for Krishna.